The descent is not a phase where your life goes downward. It is the phase where reality turns silent to bring you back to the depth you have avoided for too long. There comes a moment when every movement in your life seems to pause. The things that once excited you suddenly lose their color. Projects stop halfway. Relationships go silent. Even you no longer recognize yourself in your old desires. Others will think you are stuck. But inside, you know that something is happening on a deeper layer than usual. No more sound, no more strong signals, only an indescribable stillness. From that moment, the process of descent begins. The body is the first place to respond to the shift of the field. Before the mind understands what is happening, the body sends signals. You wake up with a heaviness in your chest for no reason. You move more slowly, as if the old energy no longer flows through your circuits. You lose motivation to do the things that used to be familiar, not because you have become weaker, but because your energy is being pulled out of the timelines your soul no longer belongs to. When the field no longer supplies energy to your old version, everything begins to close. No warning, no sound, only silence. That is when you step into the threshold between what is ending and what is preparing to open. The descent is the moment when life forces you to stop and listen, when the noise of the world can no longer take you any further, when the push of schedules, deadlines, and expectations can no longer make you take another step. You cannot force yourself forward with all the old strategies. You cannot hold on with the methods that once saved you, because the field has cut the supply for your old states. At this time, every attempt to control reality becomes meaningless. Silence is the reminder that an internal structure is being dismantled. Many people fear this phase because it makes them lose orientation. They think they are falling to the bottom. They believe they are being left behind by life. But the descent is not a downfall. It is a return to the deepest point of your being to reinstall your entire operating system. It helps you see what you could not see when your life was moving too fast. When silence descends, your mind has nothing to cling to. Old answers no longer work. Coping mechanisms disappear. There is no stimulus to keep you in your old state. And it is within that helplessness that a new source of power begins to speak from within. Your body never lies. It reacts even before your conscious mind can analyze. When you enter the descent, your senses become more sensitive. You feel the shifts of energy in each moment. You begin to realize that your exhaustion does not simply come from lack of sleep or external pressure. It comes from your misalignment with the old reality space. It is as if a door is closing behind you and you can no longer return. Not because of choice, but because your inner growth has gone beyond the previous state. The descent is the foundational layer of every rebirth. It takes away what no longer belongs to you. It narrows what you have been holding on to, but no longer resonates. It begins with silence, then confusion, then emptiness. The feelings you have tried to avoid your whole life are the strongest indicators guiding you into the new layer of reality. Anyone who has experienced profound change knows one thing. Before a new reality opens, life always slips into an unusual stillness. You do not know what is happening. You only know that everything is no longer the same. During this stage, the field begins restructuring everything around you. Old relationships leave, new opportunities have yet to arrive, plans become meaningless, and you stand in that space, unable to turn back. Many people fear staying in this stillness. They try to fill it with actions, work, busyness, attempts to prove they are still fine. But that resistance is what makes the descent painful. If you allow yourself to sink instead of climb, you will see that everything is moving according to an invisible order. You are not falling into a hole. You are being guided down to your own foundation. The descent is the moment when you begin to see everything clearer than ever. You realize the things that have imprisoned you. You see the fractures in your thoughts and beliefs. You see the habits that kept you stuck in loops without your awareness. Silence becomes a mirror. It reflects every part of you that you once ignored when life was busy. It shows you the subconscious programs running you. It reveals the fragments of yourself you have never had the courage to face. This is the stage where the old self begins to dissolve. You can no longer pretend to be your old version. Every attempt to return to familiarity becomes hopeless. You begin to realize that the old doors are closing to create space for what is emerging. The descent does not require you to know the outcome. It only requires you to be honest with your own signals. When your body says it does not want to continue the old way, it means your energy is redirecting. When silence descends into your life, it is not a meaningless pause. It is an invitation to enter the deeper layer of awareness. There is no rising without going through the descent. There is no new version without passing through the silence of the old ego. This is the phase where you are separated from the crowd, from the noise, from what once held you back. Not to abandon you, but to let you hear your own calling when every other sound disappears. When you stand in complete silence, you are no longer pulled by old signals. You begin to connect with what is growing beneath the surface of life. The descent is not the end. It is the doorway into the deepest transformation a soul can experience. When reality turns silent and the body begins to signal, that is not a sign of collapse. It is the preparation for your next chapter. Others may not understand, but the field understands and the body understands. You are being led into a dimension most people will never touch. This is not regression. This is the emergence of a new chapter being written from within you. The fracture is the moment when everything inside you begins to crack in a way that can never return to what it was. This is not the shattering of a weak person. This is the peeling away of an identity that has reached the time to leave your body. The first feeling is often not collapse, but dissonance. The things that once felt familiar suddenly feel distant. What you once trusted suddenly becomes a question. You look at yourself and realize something is shifting inside. Not a dramatic event, just a small difference, so subtle it is hard to name, but you clearly feel that you are no longer compatible with who you were yesterday. That is the fracture. When the fracture occurs, you begin to notice the things your mind once skillfully avoided, the truths you once covered with layers of reasonable explanations, the relationships you kept only because of the fear of being left behind, the jobs you continued doing simply because they were familiar. Suddenly, those things can no longer hide their true nature. You see clearly the limits of the old version. You see the cracks in the beliefs you once thought were solid. You begin to realize that everything that held you back was not powerful. It was only that you held onto it long enough to deny the change trying to enter you. The fracture never comes from the outside. It always begins from the deepest layer of your being. When you pause and see that your behavior no longer aligns with your new awareness. When you feel that your old ambitions no longer touch your heart. When you look at the way you once lived and see that part is no longer you. The body reacts first. The mind tries to resist. But deeper than both is the soul that knows you, can no longer maintain the old shape. This is the moment the ego begins to crack from within. The ego always hates change. The ego always wants to keep everything still. It wants safety. It wants control. It wants to know what happens next. But the fracture is the moment when the ego can no longer control the energy transforming within you. Its old strategies no longer work. Its justifications no longer persuade. The reasons that once made you delay are no longer strong enough to prevent what is coming. You feel yourself leaving the shell that once protected you and also once imprisoned you. The fracture is not loud. It rarely arrives with a major event or crisis. It often appears as a small emotional pulse you cannot understand. A moment of looking in the mirror and not recognizing your own eyes. A sentence someone speaks that suddenly awakens you. A morning when you wake up and feel that your current life is no longer on your frequency. The way you once thought about yourself suddenly feels too small. The way you once reacted suddenly feels heavy. The things that once helped you continue now feel too small for you. This is the moment your inner world no longer wants to live within the old limits. It begins to push against the frame of your old beliefs to create space for the new version to enter. The parts that once acted as your protection begin to loosen. The walls that once kept you inside a safe version begin to crack. If you look closely, you will see that nothing is collapsing. Only the things that no longer fit are being dismantled. The fracture is a clear signal that your journey is moving in the right direction. Not because you have achieved something, but because you can no longer maintain what is old. When you no longer have the ability to live inside your old identity, it means you have gone beyond it. No one steps into a new timeline with the mindset and energy of the old timeline. The fracture is the moment when everything that has accompanied you to this point begins to leave its role. Do not mistake the cracking for a sign of weakness. It is a sign of upgrading. When you grow in awareness, the inner world must restructure. Many people try to seal the cracks because they fear uncertainty, but you cannot heal by trying to relive your old role. You cannot fill the fracture with safe habits. Each crack is a signal that the new self is opening its way into the light. If you look closely, you will see that the fracture does not only occur inside, it reflects into your life. The relationships that once felt like your place of refuge suddenly feel tight. The old conversations feel boring. The goals you once set suddenly lose their meaning. The things you once felt proud of are no longer large enough to contain you. That is the classic sign of a soul entering a phase of frequency shift. In this moment, you stand between two worlds. Behind you is the old version dissolving. Ahead of you is the new version calling you forward. But between them is a space where the ego does not know how to exist. It will try to pull you back. It will tell you that you are not ready. It will give 1,000 reasonable explanations for why you should continue living safely inside your old identity. But something has changed. Once you hear the inner calling, you cannot pretend you do not hear it. The fracture requires you to be honest with yourself. Honest about what you no longer want to keep. Honest about what you can no longer tolerate. Honest about what you have outgrown. Because only when you are honest with this cracking can you step into the rebirth phase. This is not the moment to seek something new. This is the moment to release the old. Look at yourself right now. What is cracking? What no longer feels true to your being? What have you been holding on to for too long? Let the old ego dissolve. Let the old structures lose their power. You do not need permission from anyone. The field has already given the signal. If you are in the fracture, you are in the right place. And if you can feel something cracking inside you, if you are standing between two versions of yourself, like this video and leave a comment about what you are recognizing within yourself. Even a short sentence is enough. I am becoming larger than my old version. I am listening to the inner signal. I have begun the fracture. When you speak it out, you are sending a signal into the field that you are ready to enter the next chapter. Let this cracking lead you deeper, because right at the fracture point, the first light begins to enter your life. The quantum recalibration begins when the field shifts energy away from your old version and establishes new structures that the mind has not yet caught up with. This is the phase where you no longer try to move forward by willpower or strategy. Life begins to self-adjust to push you out of what no longer fits. The things you once pursued no longer generate response. The paths that once felt smooth suddenly become silent. Everything seems to be rearranging according to an invisible logic. You do not see big actions. You do not see obvious change, but you sense the underlying movement. The field is working behind every phenomenon you see. Recalibration always happens before reality changes. It is not loud. It does not warn. It does not arrive as an explosion point. It appears as strange coincidences, unexpected encounters, gentle impulses, intuitive signals you cannot ignore. Each part of your life begins to adjust to fit the new frequency. Relationships that still align continue to expand. What is off frequency begins to close, not because you decide, but because the field is reorganizing the environment to reflect the version that is emerging within you. You will notice that one day you no longer want to be around people who once felt familiar, not because they are wrong, but because the frequency between you and them is no longer compatible. There are conversations that exhaust you within minutes. There are habits that suddenly feel dull and heavy. There are spaces that no longer hold your energy. This is not a sign of rebellion. It is a sign of recalibration. The field is adjusting your connections. It is cutting the weak links and expanding the aligned ones. When recalibration occurs, you enter a phase where everything seems still, but inside there is continuous activity. If you observe more deeply, you will see small yet systematic changes. The way you react to situations is different. The way you think about yourself has shifted. The way you perceive problems is no longer the same. You begin to see things you once could not see, layers of meaning hidden in what seemed ordinary. A sentence, a look, a rejection, a sudden opportunity, all become data the field uses to guide you. Recalibration is not just a shift in awareness, it is a shift on the energy layer. Your energy no longer flows into old loops, it pulls back to rebuild the flow. When energy changes direction, reality must change with it. This is why, in this phase, you see unexpected things occur. Things that seem unrelated connect with one another. Disconnected events form a system. You see a network of occurrences working together to bring you to a new version of yourself. One interesting aspect of recalibration is that it does not require you to understand everything immediately. It only requires you to notice, to feel, and to allow. When you do not resist this process, the field works faster. You do not need to know why an opportunity disappears. You do not need to know why a door closes. You do not need to explain why someone leaves. Everything is unfolding according to the structure of the field. Recalibration never takes away what is still useful in your timeline. It only removes what is unnecessary. In this moment, you may feel as if you are losing control, but the truth is that you are beginning to step into real control. Before this, you operated through reaction, through habit, through old belief, through emotion. Now you operate through awareness, through choice, through energy. This is the greatest shift in recalibration. Not from action to waiting, but from disconnected action to conscious action. From chasing outcomes to letting the field establish the outcomes that align with you. Recalibration does not only change what is outside, it changes the internal operating system. When the old ego cracks, the old energy loses its grip. At that moment, the field begins to install a new structure, a new way of thinking, a new layer of perception, a new ability to interpret situations. Sometimes it shows clearly, sometimes it happens quietly. You only know that the things that once worried you no longer have the power to control you. The things that once made you vulnerable no longer affect you as strongly. The things that once triggered your anger suddenly feel unworthy of reaction. This is the first step of transformation. You begin to live as someone else without trying. New reactions appear naturally. New choices arise from within. You no longer need as much energy to fight reality. You begin to adjust yourself like an instrument being tuned to harmonize with a new symphony. Others may not notice it, but you feel the change happening continuously. Recalibration brings a clear message. There is no need to hold on to what has completed its function. No need to cling to structures that have finished their role. No need to force what does not belong to your next phase. The field is clearing the path. It is narrowing the old frequencies and expanding the space for the new. It is not destroying your life. It is restructuring it so you can step into your rightful position in the next version of reality. The most important thing is that you realize recalibration does not require you to do much. It requires you to become sensitive to what is moving, to notice small changes, to notice subtle signals, to notice where the energy is being adjusted, to notice what part is being held by the field and what part is being removed. When you see through the new frequency, everything becomes clearer, not through logic, but through feeling. Recalibration does not give you results immediately. It gives you foundation, it gives you structure, it gives you direction. That is why, in this phase, you should not try to force anything to happen. You are being aligned with what matches you. When everything clicks into place, the new timeline will step forward on its own without you pushing. This is how the field works. It does not need sound. It does not need logic. It only needs you to be still enough to realize that you are being reorganized according to your highest blueprint. Recalibration is proof that you are not standing still. You are being restructured at a depth others cannot see. When the field begins to reorganize reality, you cannot remain the same. You also cannot stop this adjustment. Because once the field has begun the process, the old reality no longer matches your frequency. Recalibration is the quietest yet most powerful preparation. It is the first step for the new reality to begin approaching. The neutral field is the moment when all inner vibrations begin to settle and your frequency enters its most stable state. This is not the ordinary state of the mind. It is also not the peaceful feeling people often describe as something pleasant. The neutral field is the place where all ego reactions stop functioning, where energy is no longer pulled by the past or pushed toward the future, where you no longer belong to the old timeline, but also do not let the mind rush toward the new. This is the intersection of possibilities, the convergence point of all dimensions of reality. When you step into the neutral field, you are no longer ruled by extreme emotions. You no longer oscillate between hope and fear, between holding on and letting go, between trying and giving up. You stand in the middle, and that position is where the field can interact with you most strongly. When you are neutral, you do not create interference in your signal. You do not distort reality with worries or desires. You do not send signals of lack to the field. You do not send signals of control or pleading. You simply open, and in that openness, the field begins to connect with you in the clearest way. Many people misunderstand neutrality as coldness or numbness. In truth, the neutral field is the opposite. This is where you feel everything more deeply, because when there is no reaction, you begin to see the essence of every event. You look at a situation without rushing to label it as negative or positive. You do not call what is happening a failure or a success. You do not need to define it. When you stop labeling experiences, your energy is not fragmented. It remains pure. It is not drained into the ego's need for protection. This is the most original state of awareness. The neutral field is the point where quantum reality becomes most accessible. When the mind stops creating stories and predictions, you open the way for the field to respond directly. Here there is no noise, no chaos, no conflict between what you want and what you fear, no struggle between two versions of yourself. Neutrality is where your energy structure becomes complete and unified. Everything within you enters stability, and when energy stabilizes, the timeline begins to appear more clearly. You will sense the neutral field through very subtle signs. It may be the silence in your mind, even though the outer world is still chaotic. It may be the moment something that once worried you becomes light as air. It may be the moment you realize you no longer need to prove or convince anyone. If you are in this state, you will notice one thing. There is no intense emotion rising, no shouting of the ego, no inner battle, only a deep and steady state, like a lake without ripples. In the neutral field, your body also changes. The breath slows, the muscles release. The mind no longer searches for safety through prediction. The nervous system shifts into a state of regulation. When this happens, your energy reconnects with the field, not through effort, but through resonance. Science calls it coherence. Spirituality calls it surrender. Quantum theory calls it alignment. Whatever name it is given, it is the core mechanism of transformation. What many people do not understand about the neutral field is that it does not require you to be positive or to maintain peace through effort. It does not ask you to become an optimistic version of yourself. It only asks you not to react. When you do not react, you create space. And that space is the environment where new reality emerges. Not through desire, but through presence. Not through forceful action, but through conscious stillness. This is why the neutral field is the origin point of the greatest changes in life. When you no longer try to push reality in your direction, you allow it to align with the highest design. When you no longer fight what is happening, you allow what is right to come. When you no longer cling to old scripts, you create space for the new timeline to appear. Everything begins at this neutral point. Most people miss the neutral field because they move too quickly. When silence appears, they want to fill it. When nothing happens, they want to act to feel in control. When there is no answer, they rush to look for new guidance. But this hurry breaks the neutral field. It creates interference in the field. It shifts your frequency away from stability. And reality cannot appear clearly. The neutral field is not for those who seek safety through certainty. It is for those who are brave enough to stand in the unknown. It is for those who understand that stillness is preparation for formation. It is for those willing to step into the territory of non-reaction, to see reality through the lens of wisdom. Here, all fear loses its power. All desire no longer controls you. You become separate from the old programs of the mind. Once you enter the neutral field, every action afterward carries the energy of clarity. You no longer act to avoid fear. You act because it is the most natural step for your frequency. You no longer try to control reality. You simply choose what is true to your inner essence. Every effort becomes light. Every decision becomes bright. You no longer scramble to fix the past. You are creating from the present. The neutral field is where possibilities merge, where timelines intersect, where your energy becomes a strong signal. When you stand here, you do not need to pull anything toward you. Reality moves to meet you. A door closes without needing explanation. A new door opens without needing to be sought. A source of support arrives from places you never expected. None of this is magic. It is the natural mechanism of the field. When your signal becomes stable, many people think change requires powerful energy. They think it must come with determination, collapse, or drama. But the truth is, the deepest changes always come from neutrality. It is not loud because it does not need to be. It does not shake you because shaking only happens when the ego resists. The neutral field is where there is no resistance, no doubt, no tug of war, only coherence between the self and the field. When you touch the neutral field, you begin to understand that reality does not need your effort. It needs your stability. It needs you to look directly at everything without running. It needs you to avoid falling into emotional extremes. And when that happens, you enter the state where magic becomes natural. No searching, no demanding, no controlling. You stand still and the field does the rest. This is the simplicity the mind cannot understand, but the soul does. Because the neutral field is where the soul leads. This is the space where all ego walls fall. This is the intersection between silence and transformation. This is the beginning of everything that is coming. And only when you are in the neutral field can reality take the form it was designed for you. The neutral field is the moment when all inner vibrations begin to settle and your frequency enters its most stable state. This is not the ordinary state of the mind. It is also not the peaceful feeling people often describe as something pleasant. The neutral field is the place where all ego reactions stop functioning, where energy is no longer pulled by the past or pushed toward the future, where you no longer belong to the old timeline but also do not let the mind rush toward the new. This is the intersection of possibilities, the convergence point of all dimensions of reality. When you step into the neutral field, you are no longer ruled by extreme emotions. You no longer oscillate between hope and fear, between holding on and letting go, between trying and giving up. You stand in the middle, and that position is where the field can interact with you most strongly. When you are neutral, you do not create interference in your signal. You do not distort reality with worries or desires. You do not send signals of lack to the field. You do not send signals of control or pleading. You simply open. And in that openness, the field begins to connect with you in the clearest way. Many people misunderstand neutrality as coldness or numbness. In truth, the neutral field is the opposite. This is where you feel everything more deeply, because when there is no reaction, you begin to see the essence of every event. You look at a situation without rushing to label it as negative or positive. You do not call what is happening a failure or a success. You do not need to define it. When you stop labeling experiences, your energy is not fragmented. It remains pure. It is not drained into the ego's need for protection. This is the most original state of awareness. The neutral field is the point where quantum reality becomes most accessible. When the mind stops creating stories and predictions, you open the way for the field to respond directly. Here, there is no noise, no chaos, no conflict between what you want and what you fear, no struggle between two versions of yourself. Neutrality is where your energy structure becomes complete and unified. Everything within you enters stability, and when energy stabilizes, the timeline begins to appear more clearly. You will sense the neutral field through very subtle signs. It may be the silence in your mind, even though the outer world is still chaotic. It may be the moment something that once worried you becomes light as air. It may be the moment you realize you no longer need to prove or convince anyone. If you are in this state, you will notice one thing. There is no intense emotion rising, no shouting of the ego, no inner battle, only a deep and steady state, like a lake without ripples. In the neutral field, your body also changes. The breath slows, the muscles release. The mind no longer searches for safety through prediction. The nervous system shifts into a state of regulation. When this happens, your energy reconnects with the field, not through effort, but through resonance. Science calls it coherence, spirituality calls it surrender, quantum theory calls it alignment. Whatever name it is given, it is the core mechanism of transformation. What many people do not understand about the neutral field is that it does not require you to be positive or to maintain peace through effort. It does not ask you to become an optimistic version of yourself. It only asks you not to react. When you do not react, you create space, and that space is the environment where new reality emerges. Not through desire, but through presence. Not through forceful action, but through conscious stillness. This is why the neutral field is the origin point of the greatest changes in life. When you no longer try to push reality in your direction, you allow it to align with the highest design. When you no longer fight what is happening, you allow what is right to come. When you no longer cling to old scripts, you create space for the new timeline to appear. Everything begins at this neutral point. Most people miss the neutral field because they move too quickly. When silence appears, they want to fill it. When nothing happens, they want to act to feel in control. When there is no answer, they rush to look for new guidance. But this hurry breaks the neutral field. It creates interference in the field. It shifts your frequency away from stability, and reality cannot appear clearly. The neutral field is not for those who seek safety through certainty. It is for those who are brave enough to stand in the unknown. It is for those who understand that stillness is preparation for formation. It is for those willing to step into the territory of non-reaction, to see reality through the lens of wisdom. Here, all fear loses its power. All desire no longer controls you. You become separate from the old programs of the mind. Once you enter the neutral field, every action afterward carries the energy of clarity. You no longer act to avoid fear. You act because it is the most natural step for your frequency. You no longer try to control reality. You simply choose what is true to your inner essence. Every effort becomes light. Every decision becomes bright. You no longer scramble to fix the past. You are creating from the present. The neutral field is where possibilities merge, where timelines intersect, where your energy becomes a strong signal. When you stand here, you do not need to pull anything toward you. Reality moves to meet you. A door closes without needing explanation. A new door opens without needing to be sought. A source of support arrives from places you never expected. None of this is magic. It is the natural mechanism of the field. When your signal becomes stable, many people think change requires powerful energy. They think it must come with determination, collapse, or drama. But the truth is, the deepest changes always come from neutrality. It is not loud because it does not need to be. It does not shake you because shaking only happens when the ego resists. The neutral field is where there is no resistance, no doubt, no tug of war, only coherence between the self and the field. When you touch the neutral field, you begin to understand that reality does not need your effort. It needs your stability. It needs you to look directly at everything without running. It needs you to avoid falling into emotional extremes. And when that happens, you enter the state where magic becomes natural. No searching, no demanding, no controlling. You stand still, and the field does the rest. This is the simplicity the mind cannot understand, but the soul does, because the neutral field is where the soul leads. This is the space where all ego walls fall, This is the intersection between silence and transformation. This is the beginning of everything that is coming. And only when you are in the neutral field can reality take the form it was designed for you. The emergence is the moment when reality begins to appear as if it is stepping out of the mist of invisible possibilities. You no longer have to push, no longer have to try to pull the future toward you. The future comes to you when you have become the correct frequency of it. In this phase, everything that once happened inside you begins to find its way outward. What you once sensed vaguely becomes clear. What you once doubted becomes evidence. The small signs you learn to trust gradually turn into concrete events. This is not magic. This is the natural operation of a timeline that has been unlocked. When emergence occurs, you will see a kind of shift, very different from what you are used to. You no longer chase what you want, you attract it. You do not run to find answers. The answers appear exactly when you need them. You do not try to control what should happen next. Everything happens in a natural sequence that you could never design through thought. This is the appearance of a new reality that you cannot force but can recognize through your own sensing. The new timeline is arriving not with your eyes, but with your entire body and intuition. In the emergence, you begin to notice things that seem random but are strangely precise. An unplanned encounter suddenly opens a new door. Someone you never expected suddenly brings an opportunity. A situation that seems small becomes a major turning point. These things are not coincidences. This is how the field responds to the adjustment you have made. The universe never stays silent when you reach the correct frequency. It cannot not answer when your signal is clear. Emergence is the phase where the field begins to answer you through reality. Another sign of emergence is that you begin to act without needing reasons or detailed plans. The next step naturally, without overthinking. You feel certainty inside without needing reassurance. You make decisions from coherence, not from fear. Your actions no longer come from force or desire. They come from alignment. When actions are born from this state, you do not create exhaustion. You create space for reality to continue unfolding. Emergence is not the final part of the journey. It is the first point of a new cycle. This is where you see the version of yourself you have sensed throughout the transformation. You recognize you are different without needing anyone to validate it. You no longer react to the things that once frightened you. You no longer cling to what once held you back. You stand firm in a new self that you once could only imagine. The beautiful thing is, you do not need to tell anyone you have changed. Life will say it for you. If you look deeply at emergence, you will see it does not come from achieving something. It comes from becoming the person capable of receiving it. The new timeline does not come to rescue you. It comes because you have become the version that matches it. This is the biggest distinction between a life created by effort and a life created by alignment. When emergence appears, reality is no longer a chain of reactions to fear. It becomes a reflection of awareness. You do not change your life in order to change yourself. You change yourself, and life responds. In emergence, you no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You do not need to name what is happening. You simply live it. You simply walk in it. Everything that unfolds feels strangely right. What once was a challenge becomes guidance. What once was a limitation becomes foundation. You realize that everything that happened before was not a barrier. It was preparation, descent, fracture, recalibration, neutral field, alignment. All were steps that opened the way for emergence to become real. There are moments when you will realize that the new timeline does not need a grand declaration to begin. It can appear in the smallest things. The way you feel about yourself in the morning, the way you look at someone without judgment, the way you step toward an opportunity without needing anyone to guarantee it. When emergence begins, you no longer need signs to trust. You become the one who generates the signs. You no longer ask where life is taking you. You know you are going in the right direction. Your presence is the evidence. It is not like a leap. It is like the rising of a layer of reality that has always been there, waiting for you to become the correct frequency so it can touch you. You do not need to rush. You do not need to force. You do not need to prove. You have entered the space where everything unfolds according to a higher logic. The new timeline is not a reward, it is the reflection of a self that has stepped out of the old shell. And when this happens, you will see that life does not change to make you happy. Life changes because you have become the essence of that happiness. This is the moment you look back at your journey and realize every part was necessary. You went through the silence, you went through the cracking, you went through the recalibration of the field. You stepped into neutrality. You came into alignment with yourself. And now you are witnessing the new timeline appear before your eyes. This journey is not for the hurried. It is for those who become, and you have become. May you continue stepping forward in your new version with clarity and steadiness. Thank you for walking this journey to the end. If you feel something awakening within you, share this video with someone who needs it, not to spread content, but to spread the frequency of transformation. You are the evidence of that. And the field sees you